Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name is Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor, and on today's video we're discussing how reducing your spending can supercharge your investing. And this video's all come around about a conversation that me and Nick were having earlier on. And for anybody who's new to the channel, Nick is my fantastic videographer who's sat behind the camera right now, and it's probably going to be quite interactive between me and him on this video. But basically he was talking about some of the things that he's done in the past and spent a lot of money on that have restricted his ability to invest. And to date, Nick hasn't managed to invest a penny of any money that he's earned. And you've earned quite a bit of money over the last 3 years, right, Nick? Yep. You're 21 years old and you've got zero invested, which isn't unusual, just to be clear. Like, that's not an unusual position for someone of 21 to be in. And anybody watching my YouTube channel, I am sure that you guys are already on the right track, but I think it's worth us just reminding ourselves of why it's worth making sure that our spending is in check. And there are two ways to attack this. Number one, you can take the view that a pound saved is a pound earned, which we can agree is probably not true, because ultimately there's still taxes to pay on a pound earned. So if you earned £1, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, you're still going to pay national insurance at 10%, you're still going to pay your tax at 20%, so you're going to be left with 70p. Whereas if you save £1, you could save the entire pound. As a higher tax rate payer, it's more like 50 to 60% that's gone. So it very much is not a case that a pound saved is a pound earned. It's more like a pound saved is £2 earned. And you scale that up, it becomes a big, big deal. So Nick, let's talk about some of the things that you mentioned first of all. And a lot of these are the traditional traps that I think people fall into, myself included. I'm not excluding myself from any of this, but I'm very, very aware of it, and I catch myself when I might be doing something stupid. And to be honest, I now spend my investment income on the luxuries, and I avoid completely spending any earned income on anything that I feel might be a bit extravagant. But Nick, name me the number one thing that you think you've wasted the most amount of money on.
I've got four, but my first one would definitely be, I think, a car.
A car. So Nick says the number one thing, the first thing that he's wasted the most money on is a car. And Nick, shout out how much you spent a month on a car?
Almost £600.
£600 a month. That is a lot of money. And just out of interest, do you mind saying that's about a quarter of your take-home pay at the time, right? So 1/4 of your take-home pay went on what car did you have?
It was a Jeep Wrangler.
A Jeep Wrangler. Okay, so Nick had a Jeep Wrangler. You don't have that anymore, do you? No. Okay, so we won't go into why you don't have that anymore, but you don't have that anymore. But the car was the biggest waste of money per month that you had. What's your second thing out of interest?
I think going travelling was...
Travelling. Yeah. Spent a lot of money on travelling. Again, travelling, I mean, both of these are very much depreciating things, right? Once you bought a car, it goes down in value every month. Once you go travelling, the experience is done and it's over. So it depreciates the minute that you take the experience. Now, I think that travelling and cars, they're both worthwhile things. Like, I view very much travelling and holidays as providing a memory dividend. And if anybody knows me, I love the book Die With Zero by Bill Perkins, which talks about the fact that experiences and using your time and money to buy experiences is extremely valuable. But I also think that there is an element of making sure that you live within your means. And Nick, I can't wait to find out how much you spent on travelling, because I'm going to be shocked, aren't I? How much did you spend on travelling?
I think between myself and my brother, I think it was just over £5,000.
£5,000 in a year?
No, that was only 8 months.
In 8 months?
Yeah.
It's what, a couple of trips sort of thing?
Bali and Thailand.
To go to Bali and Thailand, £5,000 each, so £10,000 total, £5,000 each. That's quite a lot of money. You didn't have the car at the time, surely? The car was just sat here? Was it really? Oh my God. Okay, so there's car, travel. What else have you spent a significant amount of money on that today you're looking back and going, that was a lot?
Definitely, I think nights out and designer.
Nights out. You know what, these are all the traditional things that people spend a lot of money at. Nights out, designer clothes, and the other thing I would put in would be maybe meals out and takeaways and things like that. That's quite a traditional spend. I remember in 2017 having a look at our finances with my wife and noticing that we spent on Just Eat something like £40 a week. And we weren't earning that much in 2016-17. So I was looking at that going, that's £250 a month or £200 a month. But more like £450 once you've taken away the tax and everything else. So how much would you spend on average on nights out in a month, do you think?
Maybe £300 to £400.
£300 to £400. £300 to £400. That is a lot. Designer clothes. How much were you spending on that?
Easy, stupid, maybe thousands.
£1,000 a month. And you actually managed to get yourself in quite a lot of debt, didn't you, because of all of this? And again, I don't think that's unusual. Myself, when I was your age, I got myself in debt with credit cards because it's very easy to not put off the satisfaction of going and buying something. And then what was the last thing I wrote down? Oh, takeaways. Are you a takeaway binger? Did you have that problem?
Definitely.
And how much?
The same, maybe £40 to £50 a week. Yeah.
So £200 a month sort of thing. It's an awful lot of money, right? And we start adding all this up, guys, and even if we said that 5,000 was over a 12-month period, that would still be £400 a month. And it's not hard to see where all of your income went, right? £1,000 here, £1,000 on designer clothes, £400 on nights out, £200 on takeaways. That's an awful lot of money gone. So I think, thank you so much for putting yourself under the microscope, but also it's important to say, Nick, that you have personally decided to change your finances around, haven't you? Since meeting me, since doing this, it's really sort of highlighted some of the issues that you had. And you said that even people close to you at the moment, you're watching what they're doing and going, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that in your position. And guys, what we really know when we are investing and when we're looking at saying reducing spending will supercharge your investing, Nick could have lived without most of this. Nick could have lived without a £600 car. Maybe he needed a car, but it could have been a couple of £100 a month. Nick didn't need to spend £5,000 on traveling. Although for me, that's one of those things that as a memory dividend, I can almost justify. However, I still think that's a lot to be spending when you haven't got much money. Nights out, £400 a month. I mean, you can use the excuse of when you're young. If you're not going to do it when you're young, then when are you going to do it? The reality is with investing, if you're not going to do it when you're young, then when are you going to do it? Because ultimately it takes between 5 and 15 years for investing to really start taking effect, because money compounds over time, as does problems. Designer clothes, £1,000 a month. That just seems ridiculous to me. And I remember meeting Nick the first time I met Nick, and he had a pair of trainers on that was 700 quid. And I was like, mate, you must be loaded. He was like, no. I was like, I couldn't pay £700 for a pair of trainers. Jesus Christ. So yeah, you know, I think this again is a trap that we fall into. And what I want to make most of my viewership aware of is that a lot of this, I've spoken to a lot of people who do with psychology, a lot of this is ego driven and trying to fulfill and satisfy external influences and look for validation elsewhere. And honestly, validation elsewhere, if that's your root cause, then you need to internalize what the actual issue is and work out why you're trying to please other people. Because ultimately, none of this should matter for anyone else. The travel, you should be doing it because you enjoy it. The car, you should have it because you need it or you want it, not to satisfy anybody else's needs. The nights out, it should be because you want to be there, not because you're trying to make other people happy. And I'm sure you spent lots of money on drinks for other people, right? He's nodding. Designer clothes, I mean, I can think of no good reason to be spending £1,000 a month on designer clothes when you're young and you haven't got a big enough income to support that. And then takeaways, again, it's just purely, generally from not being willing or wanting to cook. So saving this sort of money can make a huge amount of difference to your future. So Nick, shall we have a look at if you had invested, you don't know I'm doing this, do you? Shall we see how much, if you had invested, we could agree that's probably about £2,000 a month, right? Roughly speaking. And should we have a look at what a compound interest calculator would bring up if you just had invested it in the stock market? It'd be a little bit harder for me to do it with property and come up with some sensible figures. I can tell you can definitely have a couple of houses, but with a compound interest calculator using the S&P at 10, 11%, I can really quickly and easily show you how much it would be. So let's just flip over. So guys, Nick's just confessed to me that he started this sort of spending around 17 years old. A little bit off camera there. But that means now being 21, 22? 21, he would currently, if he just invested in index funds, he would currently have 120k invested in index funds. If you carried on with this lifestyle until you were, let's say till you're 30, because that's 9 years forward, then you'd have 837k in index funds. And if you carried it on all the way through until retirement at 65, you would have 28 million in index funds. And that's just assuming a 10% rise and £2,000 a month being put in. So you can see very quickly the cost of living that sort of lifestyle, or the opportunity cost. And as I said, today I am certain you'd have 2-3 properties if that was the route that you wanted to go, or you'd have a nice lump sum in your index funds, compounding every month, making you more money. So Nick, this is your former life. That doesn't look so good. I also know what your new investing plan is. Do you mind me saying? Is that okay? So Nick's now going to look to invest about £1,200 per calendar month into index funds and sorting out some of his debt issues. Once the debt issues are sorted, once he's built up a bit of pot, he's going to start buying his first property, hopefully mid next year. Something like that we've kind of agreed would be a reasonable kind of target. Obviously Nick's about to be a father next week, and you know, I think that does focus the mind when you've got another mouth to feed. I know that his girlfriend's encouraging him to get everything on track, make sure that they can build a good future for themselves and their family. And I think that's a really worthy goal. So Nick, what I would say that, you know, using £1,200 a month, I know that we've done a plan. You're going to be okay. You're going to build a really good pot of money over the next 5 to 10 years. And I can't wait to see it grow. And we're going to follow Nick's journey on this channel and see how he grows and how his wealth grows over time. But guys, let's just go back to the original point. A pound saved is not a pound earned. It's more like £1.60 earned. So what I would say is have a look at your bank statements, do this on a regular basis. I do. Go through and track your spending, see where you can save money, because it's much easier to make a saving than it is to go out and earn more. That's not to say you shouldn't do the latter as well. You know, as I said, there are 2 ways of attacking this. Number 1, you can save money. Number 2, you can earn more money. So I just want to make this video about saving. Next video, I'm going to do how can we supercharge and earn more in order to make sure that we're investing more as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I've loved putting it together. Nick, thank you so much for your input. We'll see you again on the next video. Like and subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. We'll see you soon. Cheers. £200 on, what's that say? £200. We'll have that as a blooper, right? Flip over and we'll title this Nick's F-ups. No, we won't. And we can't have the F-ups in the video. So we'll call this Nick's former life.